Hey folks, welcome to Unqualified, the fantasy football podcast that's been struggling to find the grocery section that they've been looking for, even though they've been looking at the signs on the aisles. They can't seem to find the bread section because we're not sure if it's with the snacks or if it's with the condiments. Would it be with the peanut butter and jelly? But is the mustard and the ketchup near the peanut butter and jelly? Are those technically the same category of condiments?
I don't know. I was looking for Ovaltine or any sort of chocolate milk the other day, and I was struggling to find it. I was searching for a while. It wasn't with the mustard and ketchup, though. Ketchup and mustard.
If you're looking for bread, just go to the bakery section. That's where all the good bread is anyway.
Oh, sorry. Excuse us.
But what if I want like plain old loaf of bread? I don't want some artisan hipster bullshit.
Oh man, this is like quickly turning into a Everybody Against Sean podcast here. Oh my god.
No, it's not.
What if I don't have $1 million to spend on my bread, Sean?
Just for the listeners out there, I sighed because Kirk Cousins threw an incomplete pass, and Rob's like, "Oh boy, Sean's getting impatient again. Here we go."
So you're just doing your job, and Rob's getting mad at you inadvertently without knowing you're doing your job right now.
Look, exactly. I'm a basic Wonder Bread guy or an Arnold bread guy.
Wonder Bread
with
is
a plastic bag loaf. Wonder Bread's good.
Why don't you put some Miracle Whip
Arnold
on
bread
it,
is
Rob?
pretty good.
Freak.
Wonder Bread and Miracle Whip and bologna.
That's disgusting. Oh my god.
That's all you need.
So gross.
Have a good lunch.
The Rob special.
I won't.
Rob special.
That should be a would you rather. Would you rather have a bologna Miracle Whip and Wonder Bread sandwich or something else?
I forgot to introduce the show.
Yeah, you did.
I'm your producer, Rob Diesendorf, here with Sean Brady and Scott Johnson, two fantasy football rivals that have been sabotaging each other for years, but they decided to come together to help you win your league and make your friends look like idiots. What's going on, fellas?
Very nice fast forward intro there.
I like that.
Yeah, we should do that every time. It's going well.
So what's going on in fantasy football?
Yeah, we're talking about Week 4 recap and Week 5 preview. Week 4, a couple of takes for me. There were a lot of big injuries to some big-time players. We'll get to those in a little bit, but a couple starters out for a good amount of time. Pass-catching running backs, they're proving they're more valuable than traditional runners. If you look at like the New Orleans Saints, you just look at Alvin Kamara. He's catching the ball a ton. Got about 10 targets this weekend, and then look at like Adrian Peterson on his team, who's strictly a runner. Kamara has so much more value, so I think we're starting to see that trend continue, pass-catching running backs. Another good week for quarterback play. Again, big passing league, and another entertaining week. These last 2 weeks have been two of the most entertaining weeks in a long time, especially for Red Zone.
Yeah, I mean, we're officially here at the quarter year mark.
Crazy.
And what I'm going to do is highlight a couple of teams that I've kind of noticed trending one way or another. First things first, the Rams, the Texans, the Vikings, and the Eagles have all been absolutely phenomenal out of the gate. Really pleasant surprises on offense. And other teams like the Giants, Dolphins, Bengals, and Panthers have been very underwhelming through the first 4 weeks. What's driving those numbers? For me, that's youth, young rookies, first and second year guys. So, we're going to get to Dalvin Cook in a little bit, but with him going down, dynamic rookie for the Vikings, expect the Vikings to take a little bit of a dip. And those 4 teams that I just mentioned, the Giants, Dolphins, Bengals, and Panthers, I would definitely expect an uptick for those teams as guys like Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, J.J., Devontae Parker, Joe Mixon, Christian McCaffrey, as all those guys start to get more involved, those young guys starting to, make a difference on their teams, I think those offenses will bounce back. So, just a couple of quick team outlooks through a quarter season.
Very nice. Rob, what's your take on the first quarter of football action? Anything?
Well, for me, it's been shit. I'm getting absolutely crushed in my league right now. And I don't know what to do. Guys, what do I do?
I have no idea.
I mean, first thing, I would make sure your kicker's on a team. That's the number one. Make sure your kicker's
That's a very
in the
important
NFL.
thing.
Yeah, I was missing a kicker.
Yeah. That would help. He is on a team now, actually. He's on the team that's playing Monday night. Harrison Butker is now on the Kansas City Chiefs. So
Butker?
Yeah, that's who you had on your team for literally 2 weeks. He was the backup to Graham Gano on the Carolina Panthers.
I gotta get rid of him. That's a bad
You already
name.
did. You did last week, but now he's on a team. So you had him for 3 weeks when he wasn't on a team, and you dropped him right before he got on a team.
I really don't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some injuries. The reason Butker has a job is because of an injury. Good. I'm really good with these transitions. Key injuries from week 4. Let's talk about those. All right, position by position. Derek Carr has a back fracture. So they thought it was back spasms, but he's going to be out at least 2 weeks. It looking like 2 to 4 or 2 to 6 weeks. They don't really know. So need to find a replacement. We'll get into some of those for you.
Yeah, another quarterback, Marcus Mariota, screwed up his groin. He's considered day-to-day. He'll, as just the leader he is, I expect him to probably play next week. But, he's not going to be operating at 100%, so temper your expectations for him and the Titans.
Another one, starting the running backs, Dalvin Cook, Minnesota running back. This is brutal. Torn ACL, he's out for the year officially, so safely droppable in redraft leagues where we'll get to some replacements and guys to help you out with that injury.
Yeah, in that same division, Ty Montgomery suffered a couple, I think more than one broken rib on Thursday night. He's considered day-to-day as well. I would not be shocked if he missed, a week or two. So Green Bay Packers are really banged up as a team, but Ty Montgomery might be the most important injury they have right now.
Yep. Chris Carson, the Seattle running back, has a fracture below his knee and a high ankle sprain, and he's out for the year. He's on the IR, so safely droppable, and that running back core is just bizarre. We'll get into that, I guess.
Yeah, staying in the NFC West, Carlos Hyde has a little bit of a hip issue, kind of like re-injured what he already had, but he apparently should be fine. So definitely keep an eye on him, but I think I wouldn't really, bench him on your lineups anytime soon.
Yeah, Julio Jones, another hip injury. He should be fine, but they have their bye next week, so he'll be good to go by week 6 or the week after their bye.
Yeah, and then the last one that we're going to highlight, Devontae Adams suffered a absolutely brutal hit from Danny Trevathan on the Chicago Bears on Thursday night. Honestly, I bet everyone watching that game, their first thought was making sure he's not paralyzed. He's not. Luckily, he's doing fine in that regard. He definitely has some sort of concussion going on. They're saying he might be back next week somehow. I would feel a lot better just as a human being and as a fantasy owner if this guy sits out a week or two just to make sure he's right before he comes back into action.
And that's it for injuries.
I just want to apologize for the bread comment before. That was out of line. I just got caught up in the moment. I don't
remember what you said.
Just going with the momentum.
Fuck you.
Sorry.
Yeah, go eat your Wonder Bread and Cool
Whip.
Whip.
Miracle Whip. Dick.
Miracle Whip.
All right.
All right, let's get into our blue chip players from week 4. These are guys that outperformed how we thought they would do or bounce back from a bad week. So we're going to go position by position, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. But first, player of the week. And it was a huge week. Deshaun Watson, Houston quarterback versus Tennessee at home, was 25 of 34 for 283 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 rushes, 24 yards, 1 touchdown rushing, and poked holes through that Tennessee defense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take a large amount of blame for saying that he was a guy that didn't need to be drafted coming into the year. If you did draft him or if you did pick him up early, you're paying the dividends right now. This guy is looking like the real deal for the Houston Texans and, just means great things for the rest of the Texans offense as well. Yeah,
the best part was that, they got Will Fuller back, who got 2 touchdowns through the air. DeAndre Hopkins looked like he was back to his normal self. That whole
back
offense
on his bull.
hummed. Yeah, back on his bull. And also, don't apologize for that because he was not the starter coming into the year. So that was just a Hail Mary draft. If someone drafted him, we're standing our ground on that. We're not apologizing for that.
Oh, okay. Never mind that.
Yeah, no. I'm not apologizing for that. Anyway, all right, let's get into quarterback position. Go through them quickly. Cam Newton at New England. I think this is more a product of that matchup because New England's defense is brutal. And they've been gashed by every single quarterback. But a big bounce back week. He had 3 touchdowns through the air, 1 rushing touchdown. Is he back to his QB1 status?
I don't know. It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say how much of that was the Panthers playing well and how much was the New England not playing well. I'm still skeptical that Cam is back, quote unquote. So,
yeah, I think he's a sell high.
I may start him next week. He's kind of like a matchup dependent quarterback in my mind.
Yeah. I think he's a sell high and matchup play at best. I think if you have like a Carson Wentz like you have, start him over Cam and plug Cam in when he has a good matchup like this one. Another one, Jameis Winston at home versus the Giants. This is a really entertaining game. 332 yards, 3 touchdowns. He utilized both tight ends. Good for 26 standard points. And it looks like a QB1.
Yeah, I mean, I feel better about having Jameis in my lineup than, all but a very small handful of quarterbacks. So really encouraging game this weekend against the Giants.
Yep, another QB1, Russell Wilson versus Indianapolis, 21 of 26, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks, but he had a rushing touchdown where he gashed that defense too. Made that Indy defense look stupid. So he
last week
2 good games in a row.
Yeah, like I was going to just say, I think last week we really saw them start to come out of their shell as an offense, passing the ball. They're not going to be that smash mouth run team that they used to be. So they're going to have to get it done through the air. Russell Wilson's been phenomenal the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. And then a couple honorable mentions. Andy Dalton has gotten progressively better since his week 1 awful showing. 4 touchdowns through the air. And then Eli Manning played pretty well too. Those guys are probably just bye-week fill-ins at this point, but encouraging signs nonetheless. All right, running back. Another bounce-back week for this guy, Le'Veon Bell. Not that he was doing badly. He just wasn't doing first overall good. At Baltimore, he had 35 rushes, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then 4 catches on 6 targets, which is good for 30 point standard, 34 PPR, and looks like a top 5 player again, like we thought coming in.
Finally. Finally. That's all I'm going to say.
At Baltimore too was even more impressive because that defense was supposed to be good, the front 7, but gashed them nonetheless. I keep on saying that word. I'm going to stop saying that stupid word. Sorry.
Gashed them.
They gashed them. Shut up, Scott. All right, Bilal Powell, Jets running back versus Jacksonville. 21 carries, 163 yards. Had a big 75-yard touchdown run, which is kind of fluky, kind of lucky, but 29 PPR points. Looks like he's in the flex territory again.
I don't know. I'm not really buying this stat line just based on the fact that his 75-yard touchdown run came when the Jaguars thought he was down by contact and he got up and kept running. So, I'm not really super excited about Powell. I will say I'm, not as down on him as we were a couple weeks ago, just based on the fact that the Jets look a lot better than we thought they would be. So
looks scrappy.
So, I would kind of buy into Powell as a flex guy, but not like an every week flex starter like some people might have drafted him as.
Yeah, I think if Matt Forte continues to be out, which is something to monitor, then Bilal Powell could be started in the flex spot. They also have Elijah McGuire, who's a rookie. I think he's a rookie, nipping at the heels there. So another guy to be on the lookout for. Maybe pick him up. We'll get to that later. Another guy, blue chip player, running back, Lamar Miller versus Tennessee. Big bounce back week. Had his first 2 touchdowns of the year, 1 through the air, 1 rushing, and looks like a running back 2 again. So that's good. And then a couple honorable mentions. This goes into what I was saying and what we've both been saying all along. Pass catching running backs are really at the forefront here. Duke Johnson versus Cincinnati and Alvin Kamara at Miami in London. Both didn't have a ton of carries. They only had 4 and 5 carries respectively, but had 9 and 10 catches respectively. So, and they both had touchdowns as well with like 10 targets each. So, ton of PPR value there. Alvin Kamara and Duke Johnson. Those are buy low guys.
Yeah, and just real quick, we don't want to leave these guys out, but we kind of, expected them to be where they are every week. Todd Gurley with 34 PPR points and Ezekiel Elliott with 29. Both these guys should be locked in as running back 1s for now and the near future. Zeke, however, real quick, just keep your eye out. This suspension business might not be over. I'm not saying it's definitely going to come back to, bite Zeke owners in the heels, but I would be a little bit scared if he is my running back 1, just based on the fact that it is possible that he does, get taken off the field within the next couple of weeks. So keep your eye on that. Have a backup plan ready just in case.
Yep, I think you have to get Alfred Morris, not what's his name. You have to get Alfred Morris. Yeah, Jesus, thank you. As a backup there, if you have Zeke, I think now's the time to get him. All right, wide receiver, blue chip players. We have DeAndre Hopkins versus Tennessee. Again, this is a huge game for Houston. Big bounce back game after a heartbreaker at New England last week. But 12 targets, 10 catches, 170 yards, 1 touchdown. As Deshaun Watson gets better, it's only going to help Hopkins. 26 PPR points.
Yeah, he was one of our buy low targets last week. Hopefully some of you guys went out there and got him at a nice low price. This guy's an every week wide receiver 1 with a quarterback that is clearly really looking to this guy in the red zone and out.
Yep. Another guy we told you to pick up last week, Devin Funchess on Carolina at New England. Again, this is probably a product of the matchup, but he had 9 targets, 2 touchdowns on 7 catches, 26 PPR points. I know from experience because Katie decided to play him against me somehow. Maybe she listened to us last week, but looks like he could be a solid flex option moving forward as long as Cam is producing.
Yeah, Kelvin Benjamin looks a little dinged up, so I really like Funchess the next couple weeks. I think he's a very under-the-radar guy because he vastly underperformed his draft stock in the first couple of years of his career. So things might be starting to click for him.
2nd-round pick. He's converted tight end from college. So, yeah. You got to pick him up now for sure. Another wide receiver, Jordy Nelson versus Chicago. We expected him to do well. 7 targets, 2 touchdowns. Michael Thomas at Miami, another guy, 11 targets, looks like a wide receiver 1. Both of those guys are top end wide receiver 1s. And then a couple honorable mentions that were noteworthy. Jaron Brown, I don't know, versus San Francisco. 12 targets. Sorry, that's an Arizona Cardinals wide receiver. 12 targets, 8 receptions, 105 yards. Could be a pickup. Could be the guy on the outside, not J.J. Nelson. And then we mentioned Will Fuller versus Tennessee, 2 touchdowns. Looks like a good flex option or bench guy. And then Keenan Allen versus Philadelphia, 5 catches, 138 yards on 11 targets. And again, it's a PPR machine. Going to continue that all year as a wide receiver, probably 2.
Yeah, I'm an absolutely huge fan of Keenan Allen. Let me just talk about him real quick. This guy only has 1 touchdown on the year, but he is right there in the wide receiver 1 discussion just based on his yardage alone. He gets a ton of looks. He's clearly Philip Rivers' favorite target. This is a guy that you should be penciling into your lineups every week. I doubt you have a better option at wide receiver 2 or flex. So this guy is, definitely an early round steal this year so far.
Yeah. Moving along to the tight end position. So we had a couple of surprises here. Tyler Kroft on Cincinnati at Cleveland had 7 targets on 6 catches with 2 touchdowns, filling in for Tyler Eifert, who was hurt. And Tyler Kroft looks like a solid bye-week fill-in, or even tight end too. Like if you have a Gronk type who gets hurt a lot or something like that, or if you had Tyler Eifert, pick up Tyler Kroft.
Yeah, I'll go even further. I think as long as Tyler Eifert's not playing, I think Tyler Kroft is a tight end 1. I think just based on the fact that Andy Dalton needs that, big red zone tight end to be effective, I think if Eifert's out, Kroft should be in your lineup if you have him. I think, obviously, when Eifert's back, he's probably droppable, but you might as well ride the hot streak while you can.
Yeah, and then a couple others. We told you to pick up Charles Clay a couple weeks ago at Atlanta, had 7 targets, 5 catches, 112 yards. Again, looking like a tight end, like low-end tight end 1. And then Cameron Brate, I think this is more of an aberration, to be honest. I don't think it's the norm. 6 targets, 4 catches, 80 yards, 1 touchdown versus the Giants. O.J. Howard also had a touchdown, though, so these guys are probably going to steal from each other and not reliable starters week to week.
Yeah, it's really tough to trust one of those 2 Tampa Bay tight ends. However, if you do see a matchup that you like, I wouldn't be afraid to start either one. If they wind up playing a team like New England, I think they're both startable.
Yeah.
But they're really matchup dependent, so, that type of player might not, warrant a roster spot on certain teams. So if you can, spare the space, definitely pick one of these guys up because when they play bad teams, you're going to want them in your lineups.
Yeah. And then quickly with defenses and kickers, I want to talk about kickers first because we also said for you guys to pick up Greg the Leg Zuerlein / Legatron, who had 27 points and was 7 of 7 on field goals against the Dallas Cowboys, which is insane. Pick him up immediately. That offense looks amazing with McVay as the head coach now. And Jared Goff coming into his own. Pick up Greg the Leg. And then Jake Elliott, the rookie kicker on Philly, had 19 points and had a 61-yard kick last week, the week before this week. Looking like a pretty good kicking starter, too.
Yeah, rarely do kickers swing your fantasy matchups, but Greg Zuerlein, I played against him in one league, and he's on my team in one league, and it vastly affected the game. It's, the first time really that I've had a kicker impact my game to the extent that he did this week ever in my fantasy football career. This guy is a freak.
Kickers are people
doesn't
too.
miss.
Kickers are people. Really quick defenses too. Texans versus Tennessee had 22 points. Steelers at Baltimore had 15. The Bills at Atlanta had 13. Honestly, all these defenses look like good year-long defenses and top 10 options. The Texans, the Steelers, and the Bills.
Yeah, I'm a Jets fan, but I love the Bills this year. We're kind of in similar boats as like the teams no one expected to be good. I mean, I still don't think the Jets are that good, but the Bills are legit. They have a really good defense. They are a really tough team to play, and they went into Atlanta and beat them this week. So they can play with the best. They can hang with the best offenses in the league.
3-1 now too.
And LaShawn McCoy hasn't really gotten going yet. So when they start to control the clock a little bit more, oh my God, this team could legitimately be a playoff team this year if things keep rolling in this direction.
This episode of Unqualified is sponsored by Jumble. Jumble's known as the Russian roulette of dating apps. Yeah, that's right. Dating apps. Everybody uses them. We're not afraid to admit it. But Jumble's different. Jumble only features pictures of people in large groups. Right, so you're going to be looking through the group. You're not really sure who's who. You go to the next picture. Hopefully it's a single person. No, it's another group. Oh no, let's go to the third picture. It's another group. Oh God, who is this person? You don't know. You're going to have to just message them and find out. Jumble. It's a mystery.
All right, so those were our blue chip guys, the guys that hopefully won you your week. And these guys, we're going to look on the other side of things now. These guys, the duds, are guys that probably cost you. There's a lot of them this week. Let's start with the QBs. I'm just going to list off a couple here. Matt Ryan against Buffalo, Derek Carr at Denver. He did get hurt in that game. Matthew Stafford at Minnesota, and Ben Roethlisberger at Baltimore. Scott, which of these guys are you most worried about after a subpar week 4?
Yeah, and quarter of the season. We've seen their body work this year. I'm most worried. I mean, Derek Carr is hurt, so you already know he's going to be out for 2 to 6 weeks, anywhere in that range. I'm most worried about Matt Ryan. He was at home, and Buffalo defense is very good this year. But he has 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, which is not what you're looking for out of your QB1. And he was pretty much like the 3rd or 4th QB taken. And we said coming into this year in one of our preseason pods, he had a historic year last year. But his yards per attempt were over 9, which has like never been done before, and he was bound to come back to earth. So this is him coming back to earth. Julio is a little banged up, and Mohamed Sanu is out for a couple weeks. So I'm worried about Matt Ryan. I think he's a low end QB1 at this point. And if you have like a Jameis Winston or Carson Wentz, you might want to think about starting one of them if they have better matchup than Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I think the guy I'm least worried about, obviously, is Matthew Stafford. I think Minnesota's really good, and I think he'll bounce back.
Yeah.
I'm worried about Ben Roethlisberger. I think just the body language and everything going on in Pittsburgh is just kind of like off-putting. I think there's some discord between Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin. I think obviously Antonio Brown's upset. Yep. He's throwing water coolers on the sideline. Something's up there, and that could really hurt Ben's value in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I think that honestly that team has they have the worst division by far. Baltimore, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. They're going to roll over all those teams, so they're going to have an easy way to the playoffs. But they do looks like they do have some problems. And Big Ben is getting older, and he's historically been bad on the road. So I wouldn't chalk it up to a lot more than that. But they do have some underlying problems going on. So I would knock Ben a couple notches down.
Yeah, let's get to the running backs now. There's a lot of subpar performances this week. Just to list them off: Melvin Gordon against Philadelphia, Isaiah Crowell against Cincinnati, Marshawn Lynch, my boy, at Denver, Jay Ajayi versus New Orleans in London, Joe Mixon at Cleveland, and DeMarco Murray at Houston. I'm worried about a couple of these guys. Who are you the most worried about so far?
Melvin Gordon was a little hurt. He was a little banged up coming into this, so I think he'll be fine. Jay Ajayi, that was in London, so we'll chalk it up to that. And that offense still hasn't really figured it out, so he should be fine. I think he'll be a low-end running back 1. Yeah. I'm most worried about Marshawn Lynch. I mean, Crowell has been on the decline, and he's just ridiculous. He's a flex guy, maybe. I benched him in a couple of leagues this week. But I'm most worried about Marshawn Lynch. He only had 9 carries for 12 yards, and he had 1 target in the passing game. And he's a lot more matchup dependent than we thought. Honestly, he's a flex guy right now at best. That offense is, without Derek Carr especially, even with him, that they haven't really figured it out. They haven't coexisted. Marshawn Lynch and Carr have not coexisted, meaning the running game and the passing game are out of funk. I'm most worried about Lynch going forward. I think he's a flex guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to, kind of overlook this game just because Denver has been like almost historically good against running backs so far. We remember they shut down Zeke a couple of weeks ago. And I think with Carr out there, they might have to lean on the run a little bit more. So I'm not ready to call Lynch a flex guy. I think he's more of a low-end RB2. Crowell, for me, honestly, I don't have this guy in any of my teams, but if I did, I would think about cutting him. He's been absolutely terrible. They clearly want to throw the ball. I'm pretty worried about
And they
Crowell.
would have given it to Duke more.
Yeah. I mean, and Duke Johnson's such a more dynamic overall player that, there's really no reason for Crowell to be on the field unless it's like a goal line situation.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that scares me about Lynch is last week 3, he had 6 carries for 18 yards, and that was it. He had 1 catch for 8 yards that week, too. And that was at Washington. This week was at Denver. So actually 2 good defenses. But at the same time, like, they're just not getting the ball. His carries have decreased every week up until this week, but he didn't do anything with them this week. So I think you got to knock him down a couple of rankings there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to the wide receivers. Lynch's teammate, Amari Cooper, had another terrible game at Denver. Obviously, Denver's got a really good pass defense, but he had another really bad drop, at least one that I saw. It just didn't look good. Sammy Watkins at Dallas, Brandon Cooks against Carolina, Golden Tate at Minnesota, and T.Y. Hilton at Seattle. Now, the common thread here is that all 5 of those defenses are pretty good against the pass, with the exception of Dallas.
Right.
I don't know. I'm pretty worried myself about Amari Cooper. I'll just get that out of the way right away. I actually benched him on one of my teams, which I did not foresee when I drafted him in the second round. So I'm pretty worried about Amari Cooper and just that Oakland Raiders offense as a whole. What about you?
Yeah, I would say Cooper, 8 targets for 2 catches and 9 yards. And maybe, last week he did terribly too, but Crabtree was out this week, so maybe the no-fly zone in Denver really cooped up Cooper. But he's without Derek Carr, he's a flex right now, middle of the road. But the other guy I'm worried about is Brandon Cooks, kind of a feast or famine guy. He only had 3 catches for 38 yards, and Amendola and Hogan both had touchdowns. So this is what we said last week, like temper it because he had 2 big touchdowns, but this is what he is, Brandon Cooks. So if you can deal with that, that's fine. But he's a wide receiver too. He's not a elite top 10 guy.
Yeah, and before we move on, T.Y. Hilton is still a guy that I think is a buy low candidate. I think obviously we saw him explode last week, came back down to earth this week. It's going to be more of the same until Andrew Luck comes back. But when Luck does come back, I think T.Y. Hilton's a top tier wide receiver 1. I think he's a premier talent. And, as long as, Luck comes back, at what, 85% of what he, can be, T.Y. Hilton's going to be a steal if you can get him, while he's underperforming right now. All right, tight ends. It's been a pretty ugly year for tight ends in general.
Yeah, it has.
But, this week's just more of the same. Kyle Rudolph against Detroit, Kobe Fleener at Miami in London, Eric Ebron at Minnesota, and then Jason Witten against the Los Angeles Rams. None of these guys played well. I'll let you start. Who are you most worried about here?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm worried about all of them, to be honest, not to take the easy route out. Honestly, the guy I'm least worried about is Kyle Rudolph. I know he's had 2 bad games, but they haven't had Sam Bradford, who looks to him all the time. So Kyle Rudolph, 2 catches, 34 yards on 4 targets. Still got targeted an okay amount for a tight end, but the production will get back when Bradford comes back. The other guy, Eric Ebron, that I'm actually most worried about Ebron. I think Witten will bounce back. Ebron had 2 catches, 27 yards, 4 targets. Now he's had 2 games where he's had 2 catches and 9 yards this season, I think. And now he puts up 2 for 27 on 4 targets. He's a low end tight end 2 right now. Not a starter.
No, I agree. And if you have a guy like that, those are the kind of guys that I wouldn't mind picking up one of those Tampa Bay tight ends to play over him if I have a good matchup, just because the upside is so much higher than what you're getting with an Eric Ebron type. I agree with you. I'm not super worried about Witten. I think they'll be, getting back to what they normally do, which is, run the ball and, throw a nice play action over the middle to Witten. It was kind of like a fluke just because I guess the Rams have a really good coverage unit in the middle of the field. It was kind of a weird game overall. So I think Witten will bounce back. Just to touch on the last guy before we move on, Kobe Fleener has really not developed any sort of chemistry with Drew Brees. There's no consistency there. I would not trust this guy as anything more than a bye week fill-in.
I agree.
And then real quick, just one game that if you had either of these defenses playing, they screwed you over. The Bucks against the Giants, they had -1 points, and the Giants at Tampa Bay, same game, -2. Truly,
Droppable defenses.
Both of these defenses were really good last year. I would definitely drop them this year. They don't look like anything what they were a year ago.
This episode of Unqualified is sponsored by Cakes on a Plane. It's the hottest film in Hollywood since Pootie Tang. Yep, Cakes on a Plane, you heard it right. It's produced by Bickle International. Now, Cakes on a Plane, I know you don't usually hear movie ads on podcasts, but this is completely different. These cakes are on a plane, and Samuel L. Jackson had enough of it. He's saying shit like, I've had enough of these goddamn cakes on this goddamn plane. They're running out of ingredients. Who's baking the cakes on the plane? Are they baking them beforehand? Are they store-bought cakes? Nobody knows. You gotta watch the movie to find out. Cakes on a Plane. Bickle International. Don't be a fucking idiot.
All right, that was week 4 studs and duds. Now let's talk about waiver wire guys that's going to help you in week 5 and on. We're going to talk about waiver wire guys to pick up, guys to drop to replace those, and then buy low, sell high. So waiver wires, I think it goes without saying, Deshaun Watson had a freakish week. Quarterback, if you have like Derek Carr, if you had Marcus Mariota, or if your quarterback isn't doing well like Matt Ryan, I would pick up Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as like dropping Matt Ryan for Deshaun Watson straight up.
No, that's not what I meant.
I would make sure that I add Deshaun Watson for, whatever the worst player on my team is. We'll get to a couple of guys that you can drop in a little bit, but Deshaun Watson should be owned in 100% of leagues starting next week.
Yeah. One other guy that we can agree on that should be owned in pretty much 100% of leagues, Alvin Kamara, New Orleans running back. Double-digit targets, I think 9 catches, a touchdown. They're phasing Adrian Peterson out of that backfield, and Alvin Kamara looks like the guy, almost looks like the guy. They got Mark Ingram there still, but he's not quite nearly as effective as Kamara is.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is just electric and offers, obviously I think Ingram is still a pretty integral part of that offense, but there's no reason they can't both be effective. There's no room here for Peterson at the moment. So, Alvin Kamara should be also owned in 100% of leagues. I agree. One guy that I love, I actually sneakily picked him up on one of my leagues before this Sunday's game, so I definitely have him. Will Fuller. This guy is coming back from a pretty significant injury. Came back a little bit earlier than expected and had 2 touchdowns in his 2017 debut. Nice chemistry with Deshaun Watson. This guy is a deep threat. Doesn't have great hands, but when you can run like he can, doesn't really matter. I think this guy should also be owned in the majority of leagues, especially non-PPR.
Yeah, I think you got to temper expectations a little bit with him. Like, you can't plug him in as your wide receiver 2 and expect the same production. Yeah. But a bench guy. Keep him on your bench for now, for sure. Another guy, Latavius Murray, Minnesota running back. He was supposed to be the starter coming in, and then they drafted Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is out for the year. Latavius Murray should take over first and second down. Jerick McKinnon should be the pass-catching back there. So, like, PPR leagues, maybe deeper leagues, I would pick up McKinnon. But Latavius Murray in standard leagues looks like the guy that's going to take over that backfield now.
Yeah, I don't love Murray, but I think it's definitely worth an ad this week just based on the opportunity. That Minnesota line looks a lot better than we thought they would coming into the year. Another guy I really like this week and beyond, Tyler Kroft, mentioned him before. As long as Tyler Eifert's, sitting on the pine, Tyler Kroft will be a tight end 1. Andy Dalton just loves his tight ends in the red zone way too much for Kroft to, not be a top 10 tight end. There's really not, 10 legit tight end 1s out there. So there's no reason Kroft can't be in your lineup week to week.
Yeah, and then we mentioned him last week, but if he hasn't been picked up, pick him up. Devin Funchess. Yeah. And then another guy, new guy, Evan Engram, the New York Giants tight end. He's running routes that like Brandon Marshall should be running, and Brandon Marshall is just ineffective. So Engram, Eli's looking to him a lot. I would pick him up if you need a tight end bye week fill-in, or even a tight end 2 behind your starter like a Gronk or Tyler Eifert or something if you can't get Kroft. All right, let's talk about guys that are cuttable. So those guys that you should pick up. In order to pick them up, you got to cut some people. So just position by position. There's only one quarterback that I could think of dropping. It's Phillip Rivers. He did okay this week, but 3 interceptions last week. You could drop him as a starter. He's not going to start. He shouldn't start on your team. A couple of running backs. Chris Carson on Seattle, out for the year. Dalvin Cook on Minnesota, out for the year. And then one guy that's just ineffective, or 2 guys that are ineffective. Paul Perkins on New York Giants, and Adrian Peterson on the Saints. Safely droppable, both those guys.
Yeah, I mean, Perkins had a lot of preseason hype, and as did Peterson, but neither one of these guys
1.9 yards
like,
per carry.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Brutal.
he's just not getting it done. I would not feel good about having either one even on my bench, just based on the fact that they're not getting anything going thus far this year. I think Matt Forte might be in that discussion as well. He's an old guy. He's getting hurt left and right. Powell looks, as we mentioned before, serviceable at least for the Jets. So I wouldn't feel great about Matt Forte either. Real quick, 2 wide receivers, 2 guys that are really, pretty much deep threats in their one-trick ponies. Torrey Smith on the Philadelphia Eagles and Ted Ginn Jr. on the New Orleans Saints. Neither of these guys are week-to-week fantasy players. I think at best they're like a bye-week dart throw. I wouldn't, there's no reason either of these guys should be on your roster because they're, probably just guys that you can pick up when you really are desperate for a wide receiver.
Yeah. And then we're going to talk about buy low, sell high now. We're just going to mention 2 guys that we both like for buy low and 2 that we like for sell high, or you only have 1 for sell high, but I have 2. Buy low, I know this is going to sound crazy because he had 17 carries for 29 yards, and that's it in week 4. But Joe Mixon, Cincinnati running back, it's only a matter of time before he gets it going. That team, Andy Dalton threw 4 touchdowns, so it was really a passing game there. Joe Mixon will get it going. He's the guy there. And then another guy that I have for buy low is Duke Johnson. So Isaiah Crowell has been ineffective to say the least and only got 7 carries. Duke Johnson is getting a ton of catches out of the backfield. So another buy low guy.
Yeah, like both those guys. Those are guys you can get for an actually very low price.
Yeah.
So definitely 2 guys I would target. You could even, target them as like the second, quote unquote, second option in a trade. And the guy trading them might not even think twice about that.
Right.
My first buy low guy is Jay Ajayi. I actually own him and I was, considering, hey, is this guy sellable right now? He's really not playing well. Dolphins look terrible on offense. I think that's the perfect time to jump on the Jay Ajayi stock because it's probably going to get better as the year goes on. I can't see them being as bad as they were this week for the rest of the year. Just for that reason alone, I think you might as well see what it's going to take to get a guy like Jay Ajayi. And then my second guy, this is kind of like a deep dive here. Jacquizz Rodgers. Doug Martin's coming back this week, so I think a lot of Jacquizz Rodgers owners are going to think about legitimately dropping him this week or at least trading him away. He's looked pretty good in 2 out of the 3 games so far, and I think, he catches the ball a lot better than Martin does. He's been effective. He was effective last year as well. I think Jacquizz Rodgers is a guy that you can get for a very, very low price right now and definitely can help your team moving forward.
Yeah, and then some sell high targets. I have 2 here. Cam Newton just played New England, thrashed them, but New England's getting thrashed by all quarterbacks. Even Alex Smith, week 1, threw 4 touchdowns on them. This is the perfect time to sell Cam Newton and get a viable starter quarterback like a Jameis Winston, maybe something like that. And then another guy, Lamar Miller, 2 touchdowns, his first 2 of the year. Dante Foreman, his backup, had 13 carries, and again, is nipping at the heels. This game, they scored 57 points against the Titans' terrible defense, who I didn't think was going to be terrible, but it turns out they're terrible. I think that's why Lamar Miller did so well, and I can't see him being any more than a running back 2 this year, and I think he's going to really struggle and slow down as the year progresses.
Yeah, in that same, kind of in that same vein, I think LeGarrette Blount probably had his most effective week of the year as far as yardage is concerned. Philadelphia Eagles running back, of course. I think he's definitely a guy that you want to, if you're going to try to trade him, you should do it right now because, I can't see him being a week-to-week running back 2, which he honestly looked like this week. This is not the same offense that New England ran last year, so he's not going to put up those crazy numbers, and there might be a league mate out there that kind of remembers that. LeGarrette Blount was an RB1 last year and might overpay for him. So I would definitely see what, dangle him out there and see if anyone bites.
This episode of Unqualified is sponsored by Heck Out. Yeah, Heck Out. Heck Out uses the dark web to get rid of anything that you want to get the heck out. You got an annoying neighbor? Get him the heck out. We'll put him on the dark web and sell him to somebody in Indonesia. You got some really bad bed bugs? Well, put that mattress on Heck Out. Get it the heck out. Yep, dark web. Goodbye. Nobody knows where that shit's going. You got an annoying nephew you want to get rid of? Get him the heck out. Put him on the dark web. Sell him for 2 Bitcoin. That's a lot of money nowadays. Get him the heck out. Heck Out doesn't ask any questions. Literally, you don't have to put anything in. Just give them your email address if you want. You don't have to. And they'll get your shit the heck out. Heck out.
All right, let's look ahead to week 5 in our Would You Rather segment, whatever you want to call it. Just want to do a quick shout out. Would You Rather was invented by one of my colleagues, Joe Shikoda. Pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name. It starts with a P, though, so it's a tongue twister.
Thanks, Joe.
P is silent. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, it is. I guess it's silent. I don't know. Anyway, Would You Rather. So this section, we're going to talk about each position, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and we're basically going to name 2 guys in each of these sections with a good, moderate, and a bad matchup. So we're going to talk about quarterback first in a good matchup. For week 5, Sean, would you rather have Jameis Winston versus New England or Dak Prescott versus Green Bay?
I'll take Jameis all day. I'll take pretty much anybody playing against New England at this point, and Jameis looked really good last week. He's a no-doubt starter this week. No doubt top 3 quarterback for me.
If Alex Smith can throw 4 touchdowns on New England, Jameis Winston can easily do that too.
Yeah.
All right. Okay matchups. Cam Newton at Detroit in that dome or Carson Wentz versus Arizona.
This is tough. I don't think this is actually a good moderate matchup for either one. It's kind of tough matchups across the board. They're both kind of like moderate plays this week. I would go with Carson Wentz just because Cam Newton has given us no reason to think that he's back to his MVP caliber form outside of last week against New England. So I just kind of like trust Wentz's floor a little bit more than I trust Cam.
Yeah, and Cam, I just mentioned a sell high target for me. So Carson Wentz at home versus Arizona. They have Patrick Peterson, of course, but Peterson will probably shut down Jeffrey, and then he has other weapons like Ertz and Aguilar that could go off. All right, now these are bad matchups, and also these guys are probably guys that you could have on like your team. So like Cam Newton and Carson Wentz, you have both of those guys, for example.
Yeah,
Sean.
I'm starting Carson Wentz.
Yeah. But like Jameis Winston and Dak Prescott, like someone could have drafted both of those guys.
Yeah,
these are guys that you're going to choose between that we're picking basically. Now the bad matchups, we actually have 3 here. So we have Deshaun Watson at home versus Kansas City, or Andy Dalton versus Buffalo, or Big Ben versus Jacksonville. Who are you taking out of those 3, which are basically like low end QB1 / bye week filling guys?
My instinct is to say Big Ben against Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's defense has been no joke this year, and as I mentioned before, Big Ben and the Steelers don't look quite right. I'm going to go Deshaun Watson. I think he offers so much on the ground that his floor is actually a little bit higher than either of the other 2 guys. So I'd keep riding the Texans hot streak with Deshaun Watson.
I'll take Andy Dalton, and it's slight over Watson. And the reason I'm not taking Big Ben, he's always good at home, but Jalen Ramsey, that cornerback duo of Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye is one of the best in the league, if not the best. Jalen Ramsey, opposing quarterbacks have like a 14% rating against Jalen Ramsey, so he pretty much shuts down one half of the field, and he'll probably shut down Antonio Brown. I'll take it, and Andy Dalton off a 4-touchdown passing game. Deshaun Watson probably going to have a little bit of a letdown versus Kansas City. That's a much better defense than Tennessee. For those guys.
All right, I got an off-topic would you rather here for you guys.
Let's do it.
Would you rather eat 1 Pop-Tart with no frosting or filling per day, or have to add hot sauce to every meal?
Are we talking like Pop-Tart, is that every day for the rest of your life?
Yes.
I will take that because it's still pastry, and although it doesn't have frosting or filling, which is the best part, I wouldn't want to add hot sauce to like my pancakes or my ice cream or something like that. That's every meal is a little aggressive.
I'm going to cheat a little bit here. It doesn't say how much hot sauce you have to add to every meal. So if you just put a little bit on your first bite or maybe your last bite of whatever it is, definitely the first bite. That's what I'd go with. Second off, Pop-Tarts without frosting or filling, it's basically like eating chalk. So I will go with adding hot sauce to every meal. No doubt.
I was going to say, you're going to need a lot of water.
Yeah. It's just 1 Pop-Tart.
You're going to need to carry around a gallon of water with you everywhere you go because it's like...
It's Scott, so you're saying
that you would take
you're eating like the edge. Like everyone eats the edge of the Pop-Tart first so they can enjoy the rest of it. Part. You can only eat the edge of the Pop-Tart you have to eat it once per day. That's too much of a commitment for me. I'll add a little bit of hot sauce to my first bite.
I'm going to be honest. It's straight up suicide. That's a suicide mission if you're going to be eating Pop-Tarts every day. Like,
You have to add hot sauce to every single meal, like every single snack they eat. You eat an apple, you got to add hot sauce.
Yeah,
to it. That's what that
to the
means.
first tiny bite of apple, and then you eat the rest of the apple. Taste is gone.
I don't know. Burn my mouth up, my esophagus. One quick thing before we move to running backs. This is the first, besides week 1, which is, Tampa Bay and Miami because of the hurricane. This is the first week of buys. So the quarterbacks on bye next week are Washington Redskins, Kirk Cousins, New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees, Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan, and Denver Broncos, Trevor Siemian for quarterbacks. So do not play those guys. Probably won't, but just in case. All right. Would you rather for week 5 running backs, good matchup, Bilal Powell at Cleveland or Doug Martin versus New England?
Oh man, this could be a very possible flex debate on someone's team. I'm gonna go with Doug Martin. Fresh legs coming back against a terrible defense. Powell, I'm not sure is gonna be as good as he was last week. So give me Doug Martin this week.
Yeah, I don't know about Doug Martin. I'm still taking Powell. If you take away that 75-yard touchdown run, he still had an okay game. And yeah, McGuire was nipping at the heels there. But if Matt Forte is out, I'm still taking Bilal Powell at Cleveland. The Cleveland defense is brutal. And Doug Martin, we don't know what he's going to look like after suspension. Moderate matchup, DeMarco Murray at Miami or Jay Ajayi versus Tennessee at home.
Yeah, so we're basically, wondering which of these two teams is going to run the ball better in this game. I think I'm going to go with Jay Ajayi. I think, especially with Mariota being banged up, I don't know if Tennessee is going to be effective at all. And we just saw Tennessee's defense was atrocious this past week. So I'll take Jay Ajayi, in a nice bounce back opportunity.
Yeah, I'll take Jay Ajayi too. I think Tennessee just got 57 points scored on them. They're a little embarrassed. Maybe they'll try to bounce back, but they're away again. DeMarco Murray, only 7 carries last week, and that was a lot of game flow. But the backup there got 6 carries behind him, and I'm forgetting his name right now because it's
Derrick Henry.
Thank
our
you,
boy.
Derrick Henry. Yeah,
our large adult child.
So I'll take Ajayi too. Bad matchups: LeGarrette Blount versus Arizona at home, or Marshawn Lynch versus Baltimore at home.
Oh, this is tough. I probably would sit both of these guys. Obviously, Blount is coming off a good game, but I think if I had to pick, I would just go with Lynch, just based on the fact that the Raiders are going to have to run the ball in order to stay in this game. And I still think Philadelphia can beat Arizona through the air. So I think I'm going to go with Lynch in this
I'm going to go Blount. I'm going to go Blount because I think Patrick Peterson is going to shut down Jeffrey. Carson Wentz is going to be forced to throw it to Ertz. They're going to be forced to run it through the middle. Lynch versus Baltimore, that front seven that, just got gashed by Le'Veon Bell. But Lynch with backup quarterback E.J. Manuel throwing it, I'll take Blount over him this week.
All right, and here's my wild card. Would you rather have to get your balls grabbed by your doctor for every visit for 5 years, regardless of the symptoms? Doesn't matter what you're going to the doctor for. You could be going just to get your heart checked, and he's going to grab your balls. Or be forced to trade Kareem Hunt for Eddie Lacy tomorrow.
Oh, man. I know what I'm picking right away. I'm going option 1. And
I mean, it's never a bad idea to get them checked out. You got to get the boys checked, and typically the doctor does it anyway. Like if you're going for a check-in, and that's typically
but this is for any
the worst case scenario
visit.
here. Let's go with the worst case scenario, right?
You could have a cold.
The worst case scenario is you're petrified of the doctor grabbing your balls. Just don't go to the doctor for 5 years. Just roll the dice.
Just roll
Hopefully
the dice.
You don't die.
But if you trade away Hunt for Eddie Lacy tomorrow, you might lose your league. So you don't want to do that.
Yeah, no.
I'll take the ball grabbing.
I agree completely.
Running backs on bye: Rob Kelly and Chris Thompson on the Redskins, Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram on the Saints, Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman on the Falcons, and then C.J. Anderson, Jamal Charles on the Broncos. Wide receiver would you rather for Week 5? Good matchup: Deshaun Jackson versus New England. It's a little theme here. Or Randall Cobb at Dallas. Who are you taking?
Even though I love Tampa Bay this week against New England, I think I'll go Randall Cobb, especially if Devontae Adams is out. I think Green Bay's clearly going to have to throw the ball on Dallas to beat them. And I think, Randall Cobb was very effective when he was the number 2 option in the Green Bay offense. And I think he'll have another nice week this week, especially if Adams is out. So I'll go Cobb here.
Yeah, I'll take Cobb as well at Dallas. Dallas is just had a bad loss to the Rams and got thrown on a lot. So I'll take Cobb because I'm assuming Devontae Adams will be out. Moderate matchup, Adam Thielen at Chicago or Will Fuller versus Kansas City at home.
Ooh, two pretty nice matchups. I would go for this. It really depends on your team construction. I think Thielen's a lot safer, but I think Will Fuller has a huge ceiling. I think Kansas City is kind of susceptible to deep passes, and Houston is just rolling. So I'll go Will Fuller here.
Yeah, you did see Terrell Pryor beat Marcus Peters on a long route today or tonight, Monday night, for 44 yards. But Will Fuller still seems like he's feast or famine, and DeAndre Hopkins is the guy there. Adam Thielen is the main slot guy there, and especially at Chicago, where it'll probably be a tough fought game. I'll take Thielen eating up the middle of the field at Chicago. Bad matchup here. This is a tough one. Amari Cooper versus Baltimore or Alshon Jeffrey versus Arizona.
Oh man, I guess this really comes down to how much you think Patrick Peterson affects the game. I think he's an absolute shutdown corner. So I'll go with Amari Cooper, even though I'm, completely panicking if with him on my team. I'd still go with Cooper this week just based on the fact that Patrick Peterson can shut down anybody in the league.
It's tough to bench any of these guys. Like you just benched Cooper this week, last week, but that was tough. I would take Jeffrey versus Arizona, on the assumption that Patrick Peterson doesn't shadow him, because Aguilar still has some talent there. Torrey Smith is a deep threat, so maybe they'll put him on him a couple times and not shadow him. But I'll take Jeffrey on that one. Cooper just scares me. 8 targets for 2 catches for 9 yards this week. That's brutal.
All right, it's time for the wild card. Would you rather have your grandparents one table over from you on every date for a year, or have to incorporate jorts into your wardrobe once a week?
I'll take the first option. This is kind of a no-brainer for me. I think it would be fantastic to have my grandparents one table over for me on every date for a year. I would just pull the table over and just have a nice double date. My grandpa tells great stories. My grandma loves my girlfriend, and we would, it would be a pretty good scenario. I think obviously over a year span, that's a lot, but it doesn't scare me as much as jorts.
Oh, well, aren't you lucky? You got some cool grandparents.
Yeah, well,
good for you, man.
Yeah. I only have one grandparent left. Not to make this
foiled again.
But I would not want her at every date. So I'll take the jorts because I can wear them to the store, or I'm not gonna wear them to the gym, but I could wear them picking up dinner or something like that. I think I could pull those off, the jorts.
I think I'd go with jorts because that seems like something I would do anyway.
Yeah, it definitely does. Freak. Wide receivers on bye for week 5. Terrell Pryor and Jamison Crowder on the Redskins. Michael Thomas and Willie Snead and Ted Ginn, I guess, on the Saints. Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu on Atlanta. And then Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders on Denver. Tight ends for Would You Rather. Good matchup. Evan Engram versus I always get this mixed up. I always think it's the Clippers. Evan Engram versus the Los Angeles Chargers, or Martellus Bennett at Dallas.
Oh, this is tough. I kind of like both these guys. I would just go with Bennett, just based on the fact that if Adams is out, I think that's even more opportunity for other pass catchers in the Green Bay offense. So for that reason alone, I'll go with Bennett this week.
I could take Engram. He's steadily being incorporated into that offense. Martellus Bennett had 6 catches, but only 39 yards this past week. The Chargers, they've done pretty well against the tight end. They held Travis Kelce to 1 catch on 1 yard. But that was more game flow than anything. So I'll take Engram. He's been doing pretty well. And then moderate matchup, Charles Clay at Cincinnati or Jack Doyle versus San Francisco.
Just coming off of last week, I'll go with Charles Clay. He had over 100 yards. So I think, Doyle is definitely startable this week at San Francisco or at home against San Francisco, but I would go with Clay personally.
Yeah, I'll go with Clay. He's steadily becoming a top 10 option. And before Andrew Luck comes back, Jack Doyle is not a top 10 option, especially next week. Bad matchup, Tyler Kroft versus Buffalo, good defense, or Jared Cook versus Baltimore.
I'm going to be kind of contrary to what I said about Kroft earlier. I think Buffalo's really good defense. I still think Kroft is startable here, even in a bad matchup, but I'll go with Cook. I think EJ Manuel really look to Cook consistently, after Carr got hurt last week. So I think just based on volume, I think Jared Cook is not a terrible play this week, despite a bad matchup home against Baltimore.
Yeah, I think Cook had a really bad drop in the end zone last week for the Oakland Raiders, and that just scares me because you're supposed to catch those. Austin Hooper last week against
in the end zone.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to change my pick. I can't stand Jared Cook. I'm going with Tyler Kroft.
All right, well, can I finish my freaking statement?
Yeah, sorry to flip-flop. I just forgot how much I really can't stand Jared.
Shut up. Hold on. Austin Hooper versus
I really
Buffalo.
can't stand Jared Cook at all. I just can't stand him.
Fuck off. Oh, my God.
Can I sing?
Anyway.
A drop in the end zone, a change in the weather.
All right, let's move it along here.
I was hoping that you and me might end up together.
That was so bad. Oh, my God. So bad.
All right, tight ends on bye, Scott. What do we got?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that before the next segment. Tight ends on bye. Jordan Reed / Vernon Davis, Kobe Fleener, and Austin Hooper. Do not play those guys.
All right, and the wild card. You guys ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you rather sweat pure maple syrup for a year
Oh, my God.
or throw up once a week for a year?
Are we talking what grade of maple syrup are we talking here? Are we talking A, B? Is it from
What the hell does that
Canada?
mean?
whatever the
Like Aunt Jemima?
whatever the thickest one is.
The most
Oh,
viscous one?
Whatever
That
the
was
thickest
not, I
one
didn't know it was
is
gonna be
with
that.
2 C's. Thick with 2 C's.
As much as I hate throwing up,
Like Aunt Jemima thickness.
as much as I hate
that
throwing up,
thick.
I would never choose to sweat pure maple syrup for a year just based on the volume that I sweat. My clothes would be
Yeah.
ruined. First off, you can get
Yeah.
a drop of maple syrup on anything, and you can't wear it. You can't get that out. It would cost so much money to buy all new clothes after that year, or throughout that year. Yeah, no, I'll throw up once a week. I won't be happy about it, but I'll, begrudgingly
Changing my
choose that.
answer. I was going to pick some maple syrup, but I'm sweating right now in a undershirt with 3 fans on me. So I'll take a throw up once a week for a year because I could just do it in private. I'm sweating at work all day, so no. Rob, what about you?
I'm thinking I'm going with the maple syrup. I think I'm just gonna scratch that year off my calendar and just throw caution to the wind to just see what happens. You know?
Nice.
Like maybe I'll go live in the woods and sweat maple syrup and be naked. I can sweat into
You
a
would
jar.
get
and
eaten
then,
by an
make my
animal
own.
if that was
If you want to do that, I guess
pancakes.
you can, but it's a free world, free country.
It would be a lifestyle change, but I think I could pull it
All
off.
right, go ahead, have fun with that. A couple of streaming defenses for Week 5. The Jets at Cleveland. That's just I never thought I'd say just stream the Jets
Seriously.
defense, but it's Cleveland. Deshaun Kaiser has thrown 8 interceptions, I think, on the year for 3 touchdowns, and Cleveland sucks. And then the Raiders versus the Baltimore Ravens. I would stream the Raiders. I think that's a less steady option, but Baltimore offensively has been inept. And then the Bills defense, which we said to pick up and kind of play all year at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's coming off a good week, but again, has shown a lot of offensive struggles. So don't be afraid of playing the Bills defense that just shut down Atlanta.
Yeah, the Bills bring it, and I would actually look at the other side of that Raiders and Baltimore game as well. I think the Ravens, if obviously they're kind of a top tier streaming defense anyway, they might be owned in your league, but playing against EJ Manuel, I think that's a good opportunity for the Ravens to have some turnovers this week.
Okay, so that wraps it up for the Week 4 review and the Week 5 preview. Once again, we want to say thanks to everybody for listening. We love the feedback. Leave us a review on iTunes. Follow us at UnqualifiedFF on Twitter. And most importantly, share the podcast with a friend. Share it with your weird uncle who likes my jokes. Share it with your grandpa who doesn't know what podcasts are. You may open up a whole new world to him. Share it with your league mates, or share it with your friend's league so that they can beat your friend and then make your friend look bad. Share it. Share it right now.
Also, if you have any lineup questions, like before Week 5 or any week, tweet at us or send us direct message on this. I just got Instagram, so I don't know how it works, but send us a message on Instagram or Facebook. Hey, I'm between this guy and this guy. And also, if you have any trade requests or trade reviews and you want to run it by us, see if you're getting the best deal there, run it by us. Tweet at
We're
us.
here to help you.
We're most responsive on Twitter, though, so get at us on there.
Yep.
Yeah, look for this upcoming Thursday night. During the day on Thursday, we put out a poll just trying to see who people think is going to be the top scorer, top non-QB scorer. So I think this week we got another good game.
That's at Unqualified FF, everyone. Stay thirsty.
Stay tuned.
Don't sweat maple syrup.
Well, see you
Well,
later.
What is
See you
maple
later.
syrup? I mean, what is it?
What is it?
water?
What's going on in there?
Don't start him again.
I mean,
Hey,
what is
there
it
we go.
really?
Go.
It's coming out of trees. What is it? It's coming out of trees. It's like tree
no.
blood. What is happening?
What have you done?
What's happening
Sean?
inside of that tree?
Magic.
Well, see you later.
Well, see you later.